Hey, thanks for joining us here on IRONPROS, where we're going to have one of our titanium level discussions with one of our illustrious sponsors, Tec-Niche. We've got with us here today Mark Boisvert, a national sales manager with Tec-Niche. How's your day going, sir?
Excellent. How about you?
Well, that's a dangerous question, but the good news we're connecting here. We're going to have this conversation about collision and pedestrian avoidance technology for the more demanding construction equipment use cases. So, Mark, one thing that we're tracking on IRONPROS is the proliferation of just a tremendous number of these equipment safety options that will some of them seem to me to be pretty affordable and pretty simple to install, but they might not be enough for some applications. So when you think of some of the needs and some of the technological capabilities that more demanding contractor, that contractor with more expensive or complex equipment assets ought to be looking at, what kind of capabilities do you think they should really be watching for?
Uh, as you mentioned, there's a lot of systems out there. Some don't offer all detections. So you'll have some inexpensive stuff out there that will offer pedestrian detection, but not object detection, not machine detection, infrastructure detection, void and berm detection, that kind of thing. And if they do offer some or all of those variations, you can't turn that on and off. The other thing too, with a lot of those systems, some systems you need an RFID tag,
Yeah.
which is not an ideal all the time, because if you don't have a closed site, contractors coming in on and off the site, well, they need to have an RFID tag, and that can get messy. So yeah, there are some systems out there that are more complementary to heavy equipment industries, places that have tight quarters. The other thing too is you see, I think what people should be starting to look at is how you can train your operators to be safe, and these systems help train your operators to work safely, because of how they're being alerted, where they're being alerted, and you can work with the site supervisors to manage that site safely, effectively, and some of those systems just don't offer that.
If we look at things from like the physical plant first, you might have something like has like similar to some other things on the market might have like a stereo camera or various things, but is it often desirable to have more than one camera or the ability to configure them in
Correct.
different ways given the piece of equipment?
And depending on the piece of equipment, the size, we have, the capability of doing up to 6 cameras per one display. We can record up to 50 hours of video for each of our cameras. So if you want to do any analytics after the fact or during the fact, and to help train your operators, we have that capability.
When you have the multiple cameras, are they all always activated at the same time, or are they working together in ways that are really kind of influenced by what's happening around the equipment or where the equipment's moving?
That's a great question. We can do it a couple different ways. So the cameras are always detecting. They have a detection area that they're always using and they're always thinking. But until there's a detection in a certain zone, that camera will not activate on the screen. So you're not getting detections and alarms all the time. Only when we tell it to alert the operator, will it come up onto the screen. The full screen of that camera comes up onto the monitor, on the display, tells you how far that detection is and what kind of detection it is, which is also helpful. But also, we offer a speaker system outside of the machine to alert a pedestrian. So, and it will only go off when they're in a certain zone, and it's only when it's a pedestrian. So it won't say, "Hey, a machine's in the area" for the outside speaker. But so it's kind of nice because then the operator's not worried about the detection, the pedestrian hearing or understanding how close they are to the machine.
Are some of these devices more robust or durable than others, or are there things that folks can look for to make sure that the stuff that's actually going to go on their equipment can in fact stand up to what's about to happen to it in the field?
That's right. Um, Well, temperature. So the cameras are IP69 rated, so great for dust, dirt, moisture. They can go from temperatures of -40 to +70 Celsius,
Okay.
working conditions. Um, if the cameras get dirty, the operator is alerted that the camera is dirty, so that they have to go out and clean it off. It works in low light. It works in dust. It works through. So we don't use radar. We only use video. So we have a technology that's got it's backlit infrared technology called VIDAR, so that we can see in very low light, very dusty conditions. Um, and the cameras have an SSD drive, so a solid state drive. So if, for example, if a camera was knocked off or there was a serious accident with a piece of equipment, you're not worried about a spinning disk that's going to lose your information. And that information is transferred to the cloud as well every certain amount of time if you go with a Clearview system, which is our remote monitoring system.
So there's the physical hardware, but then you'd mentioned before the fact that, yeah, you want to make sure that something can detect not just a pedestrian, but maybe other things. What types of detections should someone really be asking about as they're evaluating this stuff?
Yeah, so depending on site and depending on industry, I would say, if we use a construction site or even a sawmill site, you're maybe worried about pedestrians on a certain site, but some sites might not. You might not have to worry about, like a big mining site. You might not have to worry about pedestrians, but you want to worry about berm detection. You want to worry about void detection, other machines, and we can turn those on and off. We've got about 21 different detections.
Wow.
You know, whether it's a stop sign or a pylon or a Jersey barrier, we can turn those on and off. And if for some reason there's a site where we've got something specific, a specific machine or a specific object that the system doesn't detect properly, what we do is we download the video of that detection, and we train the AI system, retrain the camera to see that object. So .NetX is great to work with on that front. It takes a couple of days. We send them the video, they send it back, and now that detection's now in the system. And it's great for people that are in a vehicle as well, so it'll detect that
Yeah.
as well. And like I said, turning that on and off, any of those detections on and off is a flick of a button. With the other thing is that's kind of nice is that all this these detections, these zones, anything that we're configuring in these cameras, we're not able to do that on the monitor, on the display in the machine. So the operator doesn't have a chance or a choice to turn stuff on or off. That's done remotely, either remotely or we plug in a laptop. So the operator can't really change anything or mess with the system. We have a lot of people that they get a lot of false detections. So what happens is the operator unplugs the display or
Yeah.
unplugs the monitor or camera or whatever, and then they'll get written up, or an HSE monitor will come by and say, "Hey, why is your camera not working?"
Yeah.
And they get rung up. Our system detects if the display has been disconnected or if the camera is dirty. So there's nothing the operator can do. They can't even change the volume. We have to
Okay.
change the volume for them. So yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, my initial goal was to kind of get you talking about some of the things that may be missing from, some applications out there in the market for heavy construction equipment. And, you being the national sales manager for Tec-Niche, you managed to talk a little bit about the .NetX product anyway. But now let's just take the kid gloves off. And why don't you tell me about .NetX and, let us know exactly what that product line is, and maybe what kind of contractor or what kind of equipment fleet owner would be really a good fit for that.
So Tec-Niche is the um, North American supplier for DotNetix. DotNetix is a company out of South Africa. They've been in business with the SafeEye product, the initial camera product, since 2017. And they came up with a stereoscopic camera that works when others won't. You don't have to rely on radar. You don't have to rely on an RFID tag.
Yeah.
And you can, with the AI possibilities, you can train the camera what to see and when. And the reason we took them on as a product was because we got approached by a large customer of ours that does, they're all over the place in North America. And they were tired of getting, putting systems on that, they put a camera system on because they had to. And it wasn't really helping their health and safety record. It was just, just to put a camera on. They were getting a lot of false alerts. They were getting a lot of operators that were just unplugging systems, putting tape over buzzers. It just wasn't working
Yeah.
properly. So listen, we need something that works
Yeah.
and will help us train our staff, especially with young workers these days that don't know how a site works.
Yeah,
And
well,
don't
I'm
know
I'm
how
not young, but I'm still pretty stupid. So don't pile on the young people, man.
yeah, right. So this customer approached us, said, we got to find something. So we went to task and found .NetX, and it's been great since. They've the changes that have happened just since then, based on our needs in North America, have been amazing.
So if you look at what types of things make construction equipment fleet a good fit for this, does it have to do with size? Does it have to do with the expense or complexity or certain types of equipment assets? What types of folks should be listening to this right now? Is like, yeah, I gotta examine this. I gotta go to school on this.
As most people would say for this type of equipment, we're very concerned about pedestrian detection, but the other side of this is asset protection. So when you're talking about heavy equipment on a site, I talk to smaller operators or larger operators of vast fleets of equipment, and you ask them the question, how much do you spend in damages to infrastructure, damages to your fleet, just from because somebody banged into something? It's astronomical. The amount is huge. This product could help that, at least 20% or 30% just by having a camera on the back end of a machine. So you wouldn't run into that corner of that building, or you wouldn't hit a pickup truck
Yeah.
and it warns and what happens is it'll train the operator. So you're training your operators at the same time. And after a certain amount of time, they're not going to have those accidents or those mishaps. I think for larger projects, for mines, this is an ideal product, especially when you're a pipeline application or a log sort application. You're being told you have to have something for collision avoidance.
Now, when it comes to what kind of gets people off the dime to move in this direction, I mean, safety is like a very, central factor. But do you think sometimes people are more motivated by the idea of preventing financial loss than the thing is harder to imagine, which is like losing a person?
That's a great comment. Well, I'll say, and unfortunately, it takes a lot of times it takes an accident or it takes a fine because you don't have
Yeah.
that health and safety factor on your site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if someone's listening to this, like, wow, you're just you're too persuasive for me. This is something I absolutely need to get. When it comes to what how many American dollars you think someone's going to look at for like, the lowest or smallest instance of this technology, and what kind of time frame are you looking at in terms of being able to do installation and things like that and be ready to rock and roll?
Well, installation is very similar to anything else on the market. If not, it's
Yeah.
easier. It's only a couple of cables and mounting a camera. If for the very basic system, you've got a display, you've got power, you've got a cable going from the camera to the display. That's it. That's all. It's however long that takes. And we pride ourselves in that. And then turning it on and configuring it doesn't take as much. It's very intuitive as well. You can program it with a laptop and plug it right into the display. Um, and then as far as cost, and then it can go up to a 4 or 6 camera system
Yeah.
with speakers and a bunch of other things. You're ranging from anywhere from 5,000 US dollars to 30,000 US dollars per system, depending on what you're doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it really depends on what you need for your site. Um, where are you in the country? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it dusty? Is it that will depend.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind me asking about American dollars when I'm talking to Canadians.
Not at
I
all.
like to do that. And particularly when you mentioned like 70 degrees Celsius, which is like what, 158 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty
Exactly.
substantial.
That's
So,
right. The
you
minus
know,
40 and minus 40 is about the same, but
yeah, yeah. In Wisconsin here, that's relevant sometimes. You pretty much convinced me, Mark. This is some pretty cool stuff. But I don't really have a heavy equipment fleet of my own. But what kind of companies, whether it's by like NAICS or industry verticals, ought to be really interested in this?
that's the great thing about this product is we have some customers that touch on different industries. They could be in the construction industry, they could be in the pipeline industry, they could be in mining, they could be in a bunch of different things. So I feel this system is great for the intermodal industry. You know, a rail yard, a heavy trucking yard, a port, mining for sure, construction industry, whether that's civil construction or pipeline construction. The other thing we've been really successful because of the demands of the machine is in the logging sector, sawmills, log sorts, that of that type, um, airports, just alerting people at airports, whether it's snow removal machines or just anything at an airport. So those are the kind of industries that we like to work within.
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to take us to school on this. God willing, some folks will be exposed to this and be introduced to a solution that will meet their needs better than other things out there on the market. So, if you like hearing about technologies like this from people who know a lot about them, like Mark, keep on coming back here to Iron Pros, and we'll see you here soon.